The FIA WEC Super Season fast approaching its conclusion. The penultimate round of the season is at Spa-Francorchamps for the 6 hours of Spa. We then head in mid-June to the season finale, the second time in one season uniquely that we visited Spa and that we will visit Le Mans for the 24-hour race. Hello everybody, welcome to Spa-Francorchamps on what is a chilly but so far dry afternoon, ready for this afternoon's action in qualifying. Down in the pit lane is Louise Beckett, we'll hear from her later. I'm Martin Haven, alongside me Graham Goodwin and Alan McNish. And Alan, the weather here is always a little bit of an unknown, but so far it is dry, the track remains dry, and so we should see the cars coming out immediately to try and get right on the pace. Yeah,
certainly Spa is all about a few factors, one of them being is a beautiful, fast-sweeping circuit that effectively hasn't changed too much over the years, and the other thing is about the weather above it, and it always seems to impact on what actually happens on circuit. But today I think you're right, as Stefan Bucher gets ready in the Ford, and the GT AMs and the GT Pros will be out first, and they will go out early on. For another factor, this is one of the longest circuits on the calendar, so with the limited time you have available in qualifying, especially with the fact you're switching as an average between two drivers, you need a pit stop in the middle, that you need to be on track early to get the first lap time in.
25 minutes of track time, as you say, to get two drivers in, and it's not just one lap, it's 3 laps for each drive, because you've got to get out there, set a fast lap, come back in at a bare minimum, and that's assuming that you get your first lap right. This camera operator is not only tall, but making me quite dizzy as he flies around the Aston Martin garage. The two bright yellow cars are the GTE Pro category cars, the new shape Vantage, and the faithful old warhorse, the 98 car, the older shape car, that's their GTE AM car. As of the first race of next year, the new shape car will also be available to the AM classes, and that will bring them back on a par perhaps with the likes of Porsche, who've had their new car available for the whole of the super season. Well, 7 kilometers of rising, falling, undulating, twisting, turning by alternate differentials, super high speed and quite technical. Sector 1 and 3 very quick. Sector 2 demands an entirely different race car.
Yeah, you need to basically have straight line power and aero efficiency in Sector 1 and 3. That's pretty much all flat out, all the way to Les Combes from the start, and also back through Blanchimont to the bus stop in the end. But it's that middle sector that's going to be, in my opinion, the differentiating factor between the cars. Who has got the best balance and compromise, being speed up the straight, but also the downforce for that middle sector?
And what you're going to find, presumably, is that what you put on the car in qualifying will be very different from what you need to survive 6 hours of racing in traffic as well, right?
Yeah, certainly. The middle sector is going to be the place where most of the overtaking will be done, and that's the area where the line suddenly becomes quite narrow through the course of the race. So it is very different. However, they're only thinking about the compromise for qualifying and being able to get the right part of it there. But there'll be a few people later on, I think more for LMP1 and LMP2, which are coming after this session. We'll be looking to the clouds to see what also is coming in with the weather.
Graham Goodwin, uniquely a second race at Spa in a season. Has it ever happened before? I can think of an issue in Formula 1 where they came for a race at Spa, didn't have the race, then came back for a race at Spa later in the season once the concrete had set. But actually 2 races happening in one season, apart from a Belgian National Championship or a Dutch National Championship.
Well, certainly for an FI World Championship, I think this is a first. I'm sure Twitter will tell us different within nanoseconds.
At Alan McNish would be the place for that.
At Alan McNish, and we'll give you his private phone number later if you want to catch up overnight over that one. But I think it is an extraordinary season. It is obviously a transition to the point where we'll start next season with Silverstone in September and finish it in 2020 at the Le Mans 24 Hours. But 2 races to come, and we've been to both of those tracks before in this single season. And what better place to come if you're going to come for a second time? This magnificent place. At the moment, the weather is behaving itself at the moment, but we do have extraordinary weather forecasts ahead of us for the rest of the weekend.
Well, Al, as a driver, let's talk about coming back to Spa, because it is a major feature. Paul Dall'Alana, the gentleman driver of this Aston, said Spa is one of the tracks that really got him into racing. And he said the concept of coming at, from an American point of view, and coming and racing at a track as historic as Spa is enormous. If you gave drivers the chance to race at any circuit on the planet twice, this would be in the top 3 across the board, right?
I think it is, you know, in terms of drivers, the enjoyment of racing a circuit and the challenge of a circuit, then Spa is up there. It's changed a little bit in terms of the way that things have moved on with safety runoff areas at you know, Blanchimont, for example, and through Eau Rouge. However, it is still a massive, massive challenge. And down the double left-hander at Pouhon, for example, now is one of the most challenging corners in a qualifying lap, over and above some of the other ones that you most notably know. However, saying that, I loved this place from the first moment I arrived here in 1988 in Vauxhall Lotus as a young 18-year-old until my last season in racing. I absolutely loved it. It gave me a lot of satisfaction. It gave me a few pole positions. It never actually heralded a victory round here, so I was never on the top step of the podium at this place, but without a doubt it's my top 3 as well.
Well, the winners last time we were here this season, because it is still this season, the number 8 Toyota won LMP1 and overall. Number 26 LMP2 victory, but in the GT classes that we're going to see next, the 66 Ford, Stefan Bucher we saw earlier, that was the winner here last year. Harry Tintle, of course, had that big crash at Eau Rouge, on the exit of Eau Rouge. And the 98 Aston Martin in the AM class. And Paul Dalla again in the pre-event press conference saying, for me, it's frankly staggering that I might be looking at a chance to win at Spa, never mind what he is looking at, which is a chance to win 5 straight races at Spa with no interruptions. He's won the last 4 WEC races here, including the one last spring, and he is looking at potentially winning a 5th straight here. And Graham, again, I'm not sure that there are too many people in any category of any racing that have won 5 on the bounce, or even 4 on the bounce in Spa.
Certainly not at a World Championship level. And the other thing is the Dalla, Benalami, Matt Lauda combo have scored 3 of the last 4 pole positions here. It was just last year, 2018, with the Dempsey Maritime car, the Matteo Caroli, Khaled Al-Khawaisi, and Giorgio Roda car set pole. But other than that, in that run, it has been the 98 Aston Martin, and who knows, I mean, this is going to be the last time we see the old lady, the normally aspirated V8 Vantage GTE in competition in World Championship level at Spa-Francorchamps.
Now, of course, it also will then race at Le Mans in the 24 hours. Then, that's in June. Then in July at the Silverstone Classic, there is the launch of a brand new all Aston Martin Racing Championship, for which it would immediately become eligible. Well, so it could go from potentially winning Le Mans to a month later being a classic historic race car.
Absolutely. And moving a little further up the order, Alan, the Fords, we were watching in free practice 3 this morning, those cars propping up the order. All of a sudden, they were 1-2 until almost the very end of the session.
You're right, I think it's going to be a very competitive GTE Pro.
The track is declared wet. The track is declared wet. We have a few drops at T8. The track is declared wet.
That's Eduardo Freitas, the race director, saying the track's declared wet. That's a technicality, because then it means regarding the wet tyres.
Must have rain lights on low mode.
You heard it there, but if you look, there is a rain cloud coming, and it's going to come to the far end of the circuit. But just looking out the comms box here now, there is actually a few spots, not enough to create a problem, but the Ford's looking to get out onto circuit and get one of those laps in straight away. And so right now you would want to be absolutely first in line. You'd compromise the fact that with 30 seconds to go, the tyre temperature's already dropping for a bit of track position, even if you only get 3/4 of the lap in the dry and the last bit of the lap is in the wet. It's still better than having all of the lap in the wet.
Now, technically, the other feature about declaring the track wet means that teams may fit wet weather tyres.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pit exit is green. LMGT qualifying has started. The track has been declared wet. Any lap we see or which is reported by the judges of fact as being done beyond track limits will be immediately deleted.
key there will be the exit and the climb from Eau Rouge up through turn 4, as it's known here already on. That's the one that they cut.
Here on the left-hand side as they come up over the top of the back curve there. If they are over the curb on the inside, then that lap will be pinged. Also, you've got a little bit of a risk at the exit of turn 9 down the hill as well, because it's another area where you can carry more momentum if you run off circuit, and the curb has got as much grip as the track at that point. And so therefore you've got obviously that position where the drivers have to be a little bit careful, because it's a very, very long lap. If you get it deleted and you go again, two things. One, remember we said there was only a limited amount of time, 25 minutes in total, and the second thing is that you've got wet weather coming, and the final point is your dry tyres don't last very long round here either.
You've got the best out of it. Well, BMW and Porsche, as you can see, both late to the party. They have yet to leave the pit lane. Few spits and spots of water. Louise Beckett is reporting from the pits. At the moment, though, it's still bright and sunny, but it's a little further on down from here as they come through the double left at Pouan. Once they get through Piff Paff, this right-left near chicane, when they get to the lowest part of the circuit, down to Stabilo, and start the climb back up the hill, that's where the water will arrive first. So this bit of track will likely get the rain before anybody else knows that it's arrived.
Yeah, but it's actually spitting out the front of our comms box here, and it looks bright sunshine down there. You'd think we're in two different countries, not just a few kilometres apart.
There's blue skies above us, but it's, well, patches of blue, but it's raining. So it is going to be a little bit patchy, but the rain may well be approaching from the southwest, southwestern corner.
Well, right now the drivers in the cars just want to get on with it, and they'll be giving it everything they can, because they know they've got 2 minutes basically to get this next lap done. Just over 2 minutes 10 seconds.
So Stefan Bucher with the green mirrors and windscreen strip, and behind him Andy Prio with the blue highlights. They are the first to start flying laps here at Spa-Francorchamps.
Remember, in deference to the longer circuit here, it is a slightly longer qualifying session for both groups of cars, 25 minutes rather than the usual 20.
Exactly so, flying down through Eau Rouge, past on the left-hand side, the scene of the new Belgian World Rallycross circuit, which will also bring the cars out and up Eau Rouge. They'll come up here to a chicane, turn around and go back down the other side, or a hairpin.
Well, next weekend, in fact.
Next
Back-to-back World Championship weekends here.
So as they get to the end of the first sector, purple for Stefan Bucher, Andy Prio behind him.
Oh, trouble, big trouble.
And that's an Aston with the 70 car with a spin.
It's got a lot of damage as well. Up over the top of Eau Rouge, sideways is not the way to go. It's hit the tyres on the other side. I think we shall see.
Yellow flags are out, so the car looks to have continued. Those tyres are not going to be much good for anything. And that was Ishikawa, their Japanese driver, who didn't have enough heat in the tyres for the commitment he was showing in Eau Rouge.
Dear me.
And that might be their qualifying run. There you go, just breaks away from him right on the compression in Eau Rouge.
It's tyre pressure more than actually tyre temperature, I think, because there's a big compression there and you can lean onto the outside of the tyre when the tyre pressure is not quite up, and it wouldn't necessarily be at that stage. However, back to the Fords, who are now through Sector 2 and on the run back round towards the bus stop chicane. So they've got Blanchemont flat out left and then the bus stop.
Purple sectors coming up from the two Aston Martins. Maxime Martin, the Belgian driver, fastest in Sector 1 and in Sector 2. He's now beaten teammate Marco Sorensen in both of those. So the Fords are first, but the Astons are faster.
Yeah, well, it's half a second faster in the middle sector for the Astons over these two Fords, who are basically nip and tuck between them. The second place car, so it's going to be the 66 that are quicker over the 67, so as they are Linus down here, but the Aston's the one that pops itself to top.
Sorensen on top, but behind him comes his teammate Maxime Martin. Now, don't forget that qualifying, as ever, isn't just about one driver's lap, it's about the two drivers. Half a second between Maxime Martin's lap and his teammate Marco Sorensen, and Sorensen 1800ths ahead of Stefan Bucher. So the second driver of the Aston are being handed a chance to really shine here.
Watch too, though, the speed of Nicky Katzberg in the number 81 BMW. He's gone purple by, what, 2.5 tenths in the first sector. The second BMW goes purple in the second sector. These guys are going very quickly too.
Yeah, the second of the cars, Augusto Farfus, though in fact he's first on the road, is 81 thousandths behind Nicky Katzberg over sector 1 and sector 2. Katzberg a quarter second up.
Quarter second up. I think the circuit is actually a little bit drier than it was.
That might not count. That may not be one of the places the stewards are looking at. However,
goes to the top.
Farfus fastest, coming back off a frantic World Touring Car weekend last weekend. The Hungaroring on a greasy surface.
Just saying, when the Fords and the first Aston went out, I think the circuit was probably not in quite as good a condition as it is now, because it looks to be a bit sunnier all the way around. It's not wet here. Just the Ferrari that crashed at Eau Rouge is now just making its way back towards the pits and crawl into the pit lane as the BMW will cross the line.
Just out of the way, and at the top of the pile goes Nicky Katzberg.
A big advantage.
4800, so he's handed his teammate Martin Tomczyk half a second in his back pocket. And that is ahead of Stefan Bucher. That's 1.3 seconds clear of Bucher. So were BMW and Porsche correct to go out later?
I think by the looks of this, yes, 100%, because the circuit looks to have evolved very, very quickly from that point when the first two cars went out. Everybody's got quicker since then, as they've continued round the laps. Even if it's only 2 minutes later, it's 2 minutes when the sun's been able to dry off any residue, and it's even on the curbs, not necessarily on the tarmac. It's just the ability to abuse the track as you can in these circumstances.
First lap deleted, and it goes to the number 92 Porsche. Michael Christensen loses his time to start all over again.
Now the problem if you're going out later, but everybody is expecting rain to arrive, is you could be a hero by having best track conditions for your first driver. You could run into a spot of drizzle that slows your second driver down. Of course, there's no way of knowing.
Yeah, you prefer to always try and get the lap time on the board, though. I would definitely go for that. That lap time was deleted, though, at the exit of Blanchimont. It's a flat-out left-hander right at the edge of the circuit, so that's one of the areas you will have to be a little bit careful of. It is just flat-out in a GTE car.
For the moment, it's one and done for both of the factory Aston Martins. They've pitted after just one flying lap. 97 from third position, 95 from sixth. In GT Am, Giancarlo Fisichella tops the times from Matt Griffin in the Clearwater Ferrari. So Ferrari 1-2 there. Matt Campbell just pops up in third at Pedro Lamy.
I think we've got to remember that this is a long circuit, very, very tough on tyres. And unless we are absolutely sure it's going to be bad weather tomorrow, you need to have a little bit of an eye on making sure you don't do too many laps. And if the driver feels that he couldn't get more out of it, then that's the way it is. However, Katzberg has just done the fastest middle sector of anybody. So the BMW that's on pole at the moment has gone even quicker in that middle sector.
Maxime Martin and Marco Sorensen out of their Astons. There's the damaged MR Racing Ferrari at its garage. Alex Lynn has already gone back out in the third fastest of our cars, the Aston, so too his teammate Nicky Thiem.
Yeah, just the compression there, got onto that left rear, and then it spun, got away from him, but you can also see the tear off in the windscreen that's flapping around as well, which isn't the reason for the spin, but it was one of the after effects of going sideways at, what, 300 kilometers per hour?
Yeah, just goes to show how much speed they're carrying through there, doesn't it? Still got a hefty impact.
Motoaki Ishikawa back in the pit lane. Can't see that Ferrari taking any further part in qualifying. 61 Clearwater Racing Ferrari. No longer the chrome and multicolours that we're used to seeing on this car. Now the much more solid red and black look.
Brand new car for this weekend for Clearwater Racing, replacing the car still under repair after their big shunt at Sebring that cost them a race start for the first effort with this new look for Clearwater.
Indicators on from Matt Griffin as he hauls on the anchors, brings the speed down. He's heading into the pit lane, second fastest from Giancarlo Fisichella in the spirit of race Ferrari. Third fastest Dempsey Protons 77 Porsche, with Matt Campbell, the Porsche junior driver, having done the lap. Paul Dallalana goes out in the 98 Aston Martin. That car fourth in qualifying. And the 95 Aston starting a flyer. Behind him, we're on board with Richard Leitz.
Didn't fall well for Richard Leitz. I think he was marginally balked at the end of what was a flyer, I think, for him, by the Aston just winding it up to go.
That was a quick picture of Andy Prio there, still with his helmet on. He's already done his lap, but looking to get back in if Tincknell can do a lap, and it's still an option to stick him in so he can try and improve.
Yeah, we've seen that a few times this season, haven't we? Lap 4 for car 98, that's the Aston Martin. Paul Dallalana losing a lap. In fact, it wasn't him.
That's his outlap.
OK, so track limits at turn 5, which is here at the top of the hill, so he's run off up the escape road. But that is his outlap. So it doesn't drop him down the order. The car still in 4th place. Jörg Bergmeister going out for Team Project One. Charlie Eastwood for TF Sports Aston Martin. As the clock runs, the BMW's back in the pit lane, ready to hand over their first and second places, 81 and 82, to their co-drivers. Headlights flashing on the 66 Ford, held up behind the AM car of Giorgio Roda.
It's his outlap, but his problem is that he needs to get past before he starts his flying lap, or his flying lap will be compromised. Olivier Pla in the Ford behind, trying to prepare himself, whereas the 88 is actually on a lap itself.
And it's on his quickest lap, so that's why he's not pulling out of this one. This is his quickest qualifying lap for the number 88 car.
Well, the other reason he's not pulling out is because the Ford isn't getting by him, so he's got no reason at all to pull out and let the Ford go by. This isn't racing, this is about 1 lap, not 6 hours. The Ford had to back right off. The 92 Porsche sitting in the pit lane at the moment. The BMWs have now changed drivers. Antonio Felix Dacosta going out. Martin Tomczyk not yet out in place of the fastest car of Nicky Katzberg. What about the 97 Aston coming to the end of the lap? 95 goes top with Nicky Team. What can Alex Lynn do? Is that the end of Lynn's out lap? No, it's not. That's his fast lap. So
Lynn quicker than Team. So it is Lynn quicker than Team. 97 ahead of 95. They're the only 2 cars that have completed 2 drivers flying laps so far. That's why they'll, for the moment, be at the top of timing. They're not as fast yet as the 81 BMW. They're quicker, both quicker. Sorry, one of them quicker than the second BMW.
Gulf Racing go 3rd fastest with Ben Barker. That's because they have now completed 2 laps and none of the other cars have.
But he loses that lap immediately.
Right.
And here's the 66 Ford. That's the first one that went straight out at the beginning of the session. And Olivier Pla has managed to muscle his way past the Porsche that he was battling with on his outlap. Now coming down through Pouhon, double left-hander. Tricky first part, second part is absolutely flat out with no problems whatsoever. And behind him is Tincknell that's catching up on Dempsey Proton of Roda, who is on an in-lap now.
For the moment, and just for the moment, is an Aston Martin Racing 1-2-3, by dint of the fact that they are the only 3 cars that have been scored in the second driver's lap so far. Paul Dallalana's first effort puts him as the only GTM car to start, but it'll be a screenshot for Aston Martin Racing lovers.
Yeah, there was a couple of opportunities for screenshots yesterday when the Bicoles car was fastest in the free practice sessions as well with its new Gibson engine. Didn't end up there, but a moment's glory is always worth having. Now, Porsche starting to head back out to the pit lane. 91 and 92 are both getting their tyres on and heading out. And they'll be looking for a nice, clear track. Alan, is that still a bit of a gamble, or do we think it's going to stay dry? It looks like it might well stay dry.
I think it's probably going to stay dry as Pla has crossed the line and pops itself up into 3rd. But 4/10 off the quickest of Lynn. Tincknell goes into second, a quarter of a second off Lynn. So it's still Aston Martin, then Ford, Aston Martin, then Ford's top 4.
significantly slower, all of them, than those opening laps. Wow.
That's close, but that's in.
From the BMWs. BMWs at the moment, I think, are sitting pretty comfortably.
If we remember back to right at the beginning of the season, then the BMW was very quick when it came to qualifying. It was the race pace where it struggled a little bit, but round here, if you've got straight line speed and you're on the front, then it is quite tough to overtake. Two Aston switching over drivers again.
Yep.
Almost 10 minutes still to go in this session.
So Marco Sorensen is going to go out again. I wonder if Maxime Martin will as well in the 97 car. The Dane train swapping drivers back.
TF Sport go to the top in GTM ahead of the other Aston Martin, the 98 Aston Martin racing car. So Charlie Eastwood aboard the car, outscoring at the moment combined efforts of the 98 crew. Ben Barker is the third man to score now. Paul Dalana pits. Is he going to put Pedro Lamy back in that car?
British teams 1, 2, 3 in AM with Tom Ferrier's TF Sport on top of the pile ahead of Aston Martin Racing's 98 and the Gulf Racing team in third fastest. Jimmy Bruni going out late in the session in the 91 Porsche. Now that car came in at the end of free practice 3 as Antonio Felix Dacosta goes top to the delight of his teammate Augusto Farfus by 37 hundredths of a second. I asked Jimmy Bruni right after free practice what happened with the car, and he said it just lost power at the end and he crawled into the pit lane. 2:12.671, the outright fastest lap of them all from Antonio Felix Dacosta.
So both BMWs have now managed laps in the 2:12s. Nobody else so far has done that. And well into the 2:12s as well at that. Tinknell, though, pops up in second because he's just done what I said he hadn't done a moment ago, 2:12.973. So the 67 Ford at the moment, second, 82 BMW, then the 67 Ford, then the 97 Aston Martin, with Maxime Martin now back aboard that car.
It'll be interesting now whether they try and fire Andy Prio back in there as well to get Prio's time up a little bit, because he went right out at the beginning, which probably wasn't ideal. However, here we've got the sister BMW to the leading car as it comes across the line to finish its lap.
Comes across the line, Martin Tomczyk goes third. 7.5 minutes remain. A 2-minute 13.7.
Not a strong lap there by Tomczyk. All across, it wasn't his best sectors at all, so it wasn't a clean one from Tomczyk. We didn't get to see much of the lap.
Wonder what he caught on the way.
So this is going to be an improvement, though, I think, from Charlie Eastwood. He secures just a little bit more of an edge by the look of things in GT AM. Ahead of Paul Dalana still, who's gone back in and come back out. So I wonder whether or not they've changed tyres on that car.
Yeah, the gap from TF Sport to the 98 Aston is 1.2 seconds. That's a large chunk to find, but this is a large track to go hunting for it on.
But at the moment, the lap time gap between Dalana and Eastwood is 3.5 seconds. So there's plenty of time to be found there if Paul Dalana can get this hooked up. In comes the 82.
So Antonio Felix Dacosta, is he going to hand it back to Augusto Farfus? Andy Prio has gone back out in the 67 Ford. So he's waiting to go back out.
It's going to be a very quick stop there for the 67 with Tinknell on the in-lap. So he's done sector 2 and he's now coming through to the end of the sector before comes in and out. So it's right in the limit.
Track's getting quicker and quicker. Watching the 92 Porsche, he's gone purple in sector 2, quicker than anybody has managed so far. Currently this car 92 lies 15th, deep in the AM class field, and he comes across the line in 6th. Well, better, but no cigar, really.
But remember, that's his first scored flying lap with a second driver.
He might just have lost this lap, running wide in turn 1 there at La Source. Going to be Stefan Bucher getting back in the 66 car.
Both the Fords in, both driver change, so Bucher gets back in instead of Pla. Tinknell out and Prio back in as well. New left-hand side tyres there on both.
Can we make all the qualifying sessions 5 minutes longer so everybody gets a chance to have both drivers having 2 runs? I quite like this.
It's good stuff, this. And watching as well, Matteo Caroli, not so far with the second lap time scored against him, but going very quickly in the 88 Dempsey Proton car. Watching for Jörg Bergmeister as well, and there's an inevitable improvement going to be coming there for Team Project One. Not done in GTM either. Christian Reed, the number 77 car, pops up second, splits the Aston Martins now.
Ferrari, we've barely even mentioned the word. Alessandro Pierguidi in the 51F Corsa car, now going very quickly on his flying lap. Purple second sector for Maxime Martin. And across the line, he's scheduled to be around a quarter of a second up. Let's see where he gets to. We just saw Marco Sorensen with a better personal lap, but no purples. And Maxime Martin in 97 comes across the line to go top of the pile again. So,
great qualifying session so far.
Both Fords back out of the pit lane, both BMWs.
Yeah, but Ford's back in the pit lane with the left-hand side new tyres, so I'm pretty sure they think tomorrow's going to be wet, and they can throw the new tyres at it. Remember, there's points for pole position, so it's not just a place on the grid, it's actually for that pole place, and they're right in the mix here, 3/10 off Martin's time at the moment.
Yeah. They did not send the 82 car. They were watching from the garage as that was snatched away from them.
Yeah, so Antonio, Felix, Dacosta and Augusto Farfus, drat and double drat.
Yeah, they've got 4 minutes, they could send the car.
They have still got that chance. They've also still got the outright fastest lap, but it does look as though they're keeping a set of tyres clean or unworn for the race, trying to keep it in. 91 Porsche, by the way, Jimmy Bruni's car, still down in 17th of 19 GT cars because it's only had 1 lap that's remained clean.
Yeah, here comes Jörg Bergmeister. Where's he going to pop up? He pops up third, but that's only because Matteo Caroli has gone top in the GTM class. So it's Porsche's first, third and fourth now in the GTM class. Sally Yolok has got back aboard the TF Sport car and is going to do what he can to close the gap, which is about a 10th and a half to the flying Porsche.
Yeah, it's been all change in the AM class, hasn't it? It's now Porsche, Aston Martin, Porsche, and then Porsche, Aston Martin, Ferrari. Best of the Ferraris is in 6th now.
This is the fastest car overall in the Aston garage, sort of smiling at the moment. Find out in 2 minutes and, well, about 3 minutes whether they still continue to smile at the end.
The only car that's parked, and I think for good in this session, that hasn't crashed, is the Gulf Racing Porsche. Both of the BMWs are still in the pit lane. 2 minutes 30 on the clock. They could, if they left now, just about make it round, but it is now within 10 seconds. I think they're going to really struggle.
Yeah, they are, but looking further down, Jimmy Bruni has done a quick middle sector, not a brilliant first sector, and this would put him, he's currently 18th in the factory Porsche GTE Pro car.
Stefan Bucher is improving here, Andy Prio is improving here. What can the Fords do in the last couple of minutes of this session?
Well, notable has been a lack of whinging about how much rain there is from Louise Beckett. Here is a lap that is clean. So that's looking at Radiant, turn 4. And there is a fixed camera there in race control, just on that one piece of curb.
Bruni finally scored with a flying lap, but that puts the number 91 Porsche only in 8th position.
I wonder if it is entirely healthy after that little scare they had at the end of free practice.
Way wide from the 71 car.
That's Bird, he was on a slowing down lap, because Tinknell is actually on a lap here.
Prio.
Sorry, Prio, apologies.
Better first sector than he's done in this car. Now, if he goes purple in sector 2, then suddenly he might be looking for something. At the moment, the point for pole will go to the 97 Aston Martin.
By the narrowest of margins, 0.025 on aggregate.
This is going to be really tight between second and third with Prio and Dacosta.
At the moment, he's showing Prio being 2,000s up. It's a better lap. So will he start on the, quote, front row in the GTE Pro class?
Could he snatch pole here?
There is a slight shot. Let's have a look as he comes across the line. Better than the BMW, better than the Aston. Our timing system hasn't recorded the end of his lap. Here we go.
He goes to the top.
He goes to the top of the pile, Andy Prio.
600ths of a second from second place. Wow. Aston Martin, BMW third, 900ths of a second behind. So top three less than 1/10 over a 7-kilometre lap.
Yeah.
That was worth throwing a set of tyres at it.
Wasn't it just?
14 seconds to go. Aston
denied
had it for a second.
There's Maxime Martin denied a home pole. Andy Prio returned this season to World Touring Car action. His son Seb is racing in the British GT Championship for the Ford team in a brand new GT3 Mustang. And Prio clearly is intent on showing the boy that there's still life in the old dog yet. Is there life in this old dog yet? 91 Porsche. It's not a better lap in either Sector 1 or Sector 2 for Jimmy Bruni. I'm thinking he's coming into the pits. He is coming into the pits, and that should conclude any changes. Nobody currently on a better lap. There's Harry Tincknell, Andy Prio's teammate. There is nobody out there, H, that can go better. Across the line comes Sally Yolok, goes top.
Whoa, whoa.
Wow.
Whoa.
At the checkered flag.
There's no better time to do it. There's nobody can respond.
But be an Ambler gambler, they gambled with the length of a dry session, put him back in again.
Watching Bergmeister, though.
Yes.
Watching Bergmeister, no huge improvement here.
No, it's not a better lap for Jörg Bergmeister. Not a hugely better lap. He could go second. He was 2600ths behind. Harry Tincknell very happy with that.
So 3 different factory teams topped that session. That was cracking stuff.
So there is Sally Yolok in the TF Sport Aston Martin. He and Charlie Eastwood did the laps. And the third driver of the car, Ewan Hankey, he will join them in the race. Only 2 of the drivers required to go into the qualifying session.
Yeah, pain and pleasure for Aston Martin right at the end there. Andy Prio grabbing pole in GTE Pro. Sally Yolok improving enough to overhaul the best efforts of the number 88 Dempsey Proton Porsche.
It's by just about a 1/10 of a second as well.
Yeah.
In the GT Charlie Eastwood, obviously a
very
happy
happy
boy.
Tom Ferrier's team racing in every GT championship on the planet, possibly with the exception of IMSA, I don't know, almost every GT championship on the planet. Well, let's hear from the Ford garage and a very happy Harry Tincknell. He's with our Louise Beckett.
Well, Harry Tincknell, you threw everything at it, put new tyres on there, but you got that.
Yeah, I mean, weather forecast tomorrow says that maybe a bit of snow overnight, rain most of the race, so we thought, let's just go for it, try and get the pole, get that extra point, and what a last lap there from Andy. Fantastic drive, fantastic lap, and yeah, just the car was on absolute rails today, an absolute pleasure to drive. The boys and girls at Ford Chip Ganassi Racing Team UK have done a fantastic job, and it was our pleasure to get in the car and drive it.
Woohoo, and start from the front.
Absolutely, 2 years in a row, so you know, let's hopefully go and get the race tomorrow now, but we're starting from the best place. Let's see what the weather does overnight. Maybe we're going to need the snow chains, who knows, but we'll do our best, and yeah, we're starting from the best place we can possibly be.
Thanks, well done.
Thank you, cheers.
Yeah, that's a very pleased H, isn't it? Absolutely fantastic stuff. You could see the pleasure all over his face there. And as you quite rightly said, Alan, what an amazingly close finish to that session. 0.092 between the top 3, Martin.
Yeah, fantastic. Not even a 1/10 of a second, never mind half a second or anything else. 4/10 back is the 4th place car, the second BMW. So good spread of teams. Porsche and Ferrari will have to hope that their race pace is a little more solid than their qualifying pace. In the AM class, again, right at the death at the final whistle, TF Sport claiming that pole position courtesy of Sally Yolok ahead of the 88 Dempsey Proton car. So it's Aston ahead of Porsche, and then Aston ahead of all the Ferraris. Well, perhaps a little bit of revenge on Spa, where they had a tough race last year coming up for the 67 Ford. Let's hear from TF Sport and Charlie Eastwood.
Sally taking it right down to the wire, Charlie. That was impressive.
Yeah, it was really close. We had to go for another set of tyres with Sally, and yeah, he just pieced it all together, and yeah, to finally get the pole that we've been looking for all year, really. And this is the first time I've done qualifying in WEC, so it's not a bad start, rather, to my first qualifying session.
Looking forward to tomorrow? That's a silly question now, isn't it?
Yeah, obviously after that qualifying we would like it to be dry, but judging by the forecast it could be far from dry or wet. It's looking like snow might come, so yeah, we're open to anything. And yeah, to be fair to TF and Grant the engineer, it's the best lap that I've ever felt in an Aston Martin, so it couldn't have came at a better time.
Good for you, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Big smile on the face of Ewan Hankey there in the background as well. Charlie Eastwood and Sally Yollett will be joined by Ewan for the race. And as they've said, as everybody else has said, the forecast, not the best, maybe. Bit of Ferrari debris there. We saw that coming off Motoaki Ishikawa's car as it clattered the barriers.
You don't have a slow, small accident at the top of the hill there, because you've got an almighty amount of speed. And the car's got off reasonably lightly, I would say, considering it's a wing mirror. There's a lot of damage to the bodywork, and you'll need a bit of T-cut to get it all tidied up. But that car will be repairable for tomorrow, I'm sure. Wasn't for qualifying.
Qualifying for the 7th and penultimate round of the FIA World Endurance Championship Super Season at Spa-Francorchamps. The GT category has just produced a fantastic barnstorming finish with last gasp shots for pole, resulting in the GTE Pro Class pole going to the 67 Ford of Harry Tinknell and Andy Prio, and that vital point for pole position. As Prio always said in his touring car career, never miss out on taking a point no matter what it costs, because at the end of the season, if you're sitting in the audience applauding somebody who walks up to the stage 1 point ahead of you, you will be thinking about it for the rest of the winter, and that is as true here as in any other form of racing.
When you're talking about a world championship, you think about it for the rest of your life, not just the rest of the winter. But they definitely grabbed it just by a couple of centimetres, I'd have said, in reality, over a 7-kilometre lap.
3 minutes till we go live for the LMP qualifying, and several questions to be asked and answered here as well. We've got the Rebellions with their new look, low drag aero bound for Le Mans. Same with the Totas. High downforce for the SMP racing cars. How close can the SMP cars get to the Totas here?
Could be interesting. Joop van Uyten, one of the new young stars of prototype racing, came up through the European Le Mans Series last year, arrived with a big bang, and now graduated with G-Drive, against whom he raced last season, into this World Endurance Championship squad.
Well, they're making that one-off appearance here, ahead of the Le Mans 24 Hours. They're looking forward to one, maybe two, one-off appearances in the WC next season. Lots more news to come about the shape of the grid for that. But right now, well, if this 25 minutes can get anywhere close to the dramas of the last 25 minutes for the GTs, well, that'll be, well, this part of the afternoon well spent. 36 car, the Synditech Alpine. And I think that was Andre Negrão aboard that car.
This car had a bit of a wild ride this morning in free practice 3 through Pouhon with Nicolas Lapierre at the wheel. And was very thankful that there was a new runoff area there, because he was using all parts of it.
Actually, Pierre Thirier having a bit of an off yesterday, bringing a red flag out in the very wet free practice too. No real damage though to the car.
1 minute, under 1 minute to go green, under 1 minute to start LMP qualifying session.
I'm very glad that we're not up in there doing our commentary, and we're sort of static here in a very solid commentary box.
On the other hand, it would be a little bit less stifling than it is at the moment.
I would still prefer to have my feet on solid ground than dangling in the air.
Well, you're not used to the view from that height, unlike some of us. On board with Gabriel Aubry for Jackie Chan DC Racing. That trio in the 38 car remains as it has been all season long. But Graham Goodwin, we saw the 37 lineup change after the end of the calendar year when our Malaysian trio, who were race winners in the 37 car, were replaced. Their deal was for the calendar year of 2018. And so we now have a new lineup in 37.
5, lots of new look stuff.
4, 3, 2, 1. Pit exit is green. LMP qualifying session has started.
So, I mean, amongst the new look stuff, we've got new driver for SMP Racing. We'll talk about Stoffel van Dorn, I'm sure, throughout the weekend.
Well, immediately, because as in free practice, he's first out on track.
Absolutely. And then beyond that, we've already said about the new bodywork for the Rebellions. New, slightly new, very slightly new colour scheme for the Totas at the front end there too. A brand new name for an LMP2 car in the World Endurance Championship. We've seen it already in the LMS, the Harus brand. Coming to G-Drive Racing, and it's the SMP Racing cars ahead on the road of the Totas. This could be an interesting little tableau, couldn't it, right now?
Yeah. So Stoffel van Dorn first out of the pit lane, like a dog after a rabbit in the number 11 SMP car. Behind him, Sergei Sirotkin. And then the two Toyotas came out 7. Kamui Kobayashi ahead of 8. Kaz Nakajima. You can spot that easily on this shot because they're absolutely identical in every way, shape or form from this view.
Yeah, but this has compromised the Toyota's procedure for warm-up because they've got the two SMPs ahead, and the SMP, I presume, especially Van Dorn, will sort of disappear a little bit at the end of this sector leading into the beginning of his lap, whereas the second car in that train will actually drop back a little bit to create a bit of a gap as well.
We saw Igor Orochev with helmet on, so we can guess the second driver in one of the SMP cars, but no sign of Fernando Alonso taking part in this qualifying session. Let's hear from the number 8 car.
The plan is, because there's a chance of rain, if we have a good lap on the first quali lap, we box, and then we go to the second driver to make sure we have both drivers on dry.
They try and make it happen immediately.
Yeah, you got it round here anyway, to be honest with you, Graham, because of the tyre and everything else. And as you can see, the Toyota is trying to get it away. That's going to compromise Van Dorn's lap. So Van Dorn's been the one that's actually compromised there as the Toyota comes into La Source. And it's taken a little bit of focus away from Van Dorn to be able to spot the exit, whereas the sister Toyota dropped a long way back to get a clean run at his one lap.
Sirotkin it is for SMP Racing. For the Toyotas, it's Kobayashi and Nakajima to start this session. Rebellions in the hands of Gustavo Menezes in the 3, Bruno Senna in the number 1. Paolo Roberti makes his WC comeback. His first appearance in LMP1 car with the re-engined Gibson-powered Broncos.
Well, that's the quickest first sector of anybody all weekend so far, 32.009 by Kamui Kobayashi. And Nakajima is a quarter of a second down. Then you've got the two SMPs over 1.5 seconds behind.
It's sector 2 where we would expect the higher downforce to come into some form of strength here, but how close they can get to the Totas, well, that's a story we're going to find the answer to in about 22 minutes time.
I think we'll find it in about probably 40 seconds when they finish the sector. Give us our first indications, real indications. Now coming down to the lowest point on the circuit, climbing the curb on the inside and on the out. Now you've crossed the second sector line, and it is it's certainly quick again, but it's only 2/10 Van Dorn's quicker than the Toyota, so they lost 1.5 seconds in the first sector, and then they gained 2/10 back. But Sirotkin in the other SMP has gone a chunk quicker again. He's 1 second up as the rain starts to drop onto the windscreen.
Cars that are least likely to suffer from rain are the Toyotas, because when they bring in their hybrid power, that drives through the front wheels, so they're likely to suffer a little less in terms of performance deficit. Toyota fastest with Kamui Kobayashi. SMP were second and third, but now Kaz Nakajima goes second quickest, half a second back. 1.3 seconds off pole for Sergei Sirotkin, 2.5 off for Stoffel van Dorn. Well, a little shake of the head from Vitaly Petrov. Not perhaps the gap between themselves and Toyota, but maybe something else he's hearing in his radio. In LMP2, here is the points leading number 36 Senior Tech Alpine car. These guys have been on the podium in every race this season. DC Racing fastest and second fastest at the moment. Senior Tech goes second with Andre Negrão. That Gator van der Garde has gone third quickest ahead of Gabriel Aubry in the 38 car. Whoa, big slide over the curbs.
Qualifying lap record here is a 1:54.0 aggregate across the 2 laps. At the moment, number 7 car is ahead of that qualifying lap record set 2 years ago. New look for the 38 Jackie Chan DC Racing car.
Well, I think it'll be a new look with a wiper going in a few minutes now. Looking outside, then the rain is starting to drop in front of us. So the first drivers, I would suspect, are going to get a clean, dry lap in. The second drivers are maybe going to have to contend with something a little bit different.
37 car, Will Stevens, has done his lap heading back to the pit lane. 38 is just ahead of him on the road. And that, as we said, was Gabriel Aubry, now dropped to 6th in class. Pastor Maldonado in 3rd quickest for Dragon Speed, the number 31 car. 26 is G-Drive, Joop van Uitert. 29 is the Racing Team Netherlands car, Gator van der Garde. And the Jackie Chan cars bracketing the top half dozen. Coming into the pits as well.
Now this is Gustavo Menezes, who has put the quickest middle sector of anybody in. Not quite quick enough, I don't think, for pole, but it should put him up into 3rd place. 4th place as he crosses the line. A couple of tenths behind Sorokin in 3rd.
Yeah, a bit of a wiggle out of the final turn, which I think cost him a 10th or so.
Lost quite a lot in the final sector, actually. More drops of rain coming down. How quick can they turn the second driver around? Mike Conway takes over the number 8 car, number 7 car. Takes over from Kamui Kobayashi. And Kazuki Nakajima brings the number 8 in 2nd place to hand over to Sebastian Buemi. Buemi saying in the press conference before the weekend that it's almost doesn't make a massive difference how you split your aero. If you go for a low drag, you're better in sector 1 and 3. If you go for high drag, you're better in sector 2. He said it pretty much evens itself out. If you've got a good car, you've always got a good car.
Yeah, that's very true until the race, when you've got a limited number of tyres for the whole course of 6 hours. And the higher downforce, without a question, will actually conserve the tyres better over the course. However, saying that, I don't think we're going to be in that position tomorrow by the sound of things. I don't think we have to worry about our allocation of dry tyres.
Climbing out of Rédillon along the right-hander and up the Kemmel Straight, which looks flat from the camera, is anything but when you're coming up it. And the weather is arriving. There does seem to be a little bit of a gap. 31 Pastor Maldonado in the Dragon Speed car. So Mike Conway, Sebastian Buemi for Toyota. Igor Orudchev in the 17 SMP Racing car. He's gone back out. Gustavo Menezes and Bruno Senna will be on their way. Well, I was going to say Senna on the way back in, but actually Senna has set a best first sector for the number 1 Rebellion car, 5th place car.
Number 1 car, and Bruno Senna, and it's a quicker lap for Senna, first sector.
They're going to run out of time, aren't they? Umbrellas are up. Because it's not about this one lap. They've got to get the second driver out and do the second lap. Bruno Senna now starting the long climb back up to the pits. On the left-hand side shortly is where, just there, the old road circuit joins in. What used to be the old road circuit.
8 tenths off Gustavo Menezes' middle sector. And so Senna was quickest, or quick in the first sector, dropped quite a lot in the middle sector.
New left side tyres on the number 3 Rebellion as it heads out of the pits. And Senna dives in, bails on that lap. Let's take a look here. Was he clean? He was.
He was too clean.
Yeah.
When we say clean, not meaning talking about track limits.
Rob Loipen there on the right-hand side, who looks after the technical elements of the team. Number 7 Toyota, fastest at the moment, Mike Conway.
And goes purple in the first sector.
Better lap again. These guys need everything going their way now, don't they, if they're to take the championship away from their teammates in number 8. They're 15 points behind. How many left on the table here and at Spa? 60?
26 here, of course, and 38 at Le Mans.
Right, okay. So it's doable, but the problem for them is that their sister car is unlikely to finish lower than second, even if they win.
This is terrifically close on this lap between Conway and Buemi.
Yeah, and he's just lost about a tenth and a half through Bucher relative to his fastest lap, or the car's fastest lap in the previous run. And so it's going to be really nip and tuck right now for Conway, whether he's going to be able to improve on the car's lap time. However, I think it's still going to be a very, very strong lap.
Sebastian Buemi was a few hundreds behind.
Yeah, but 3/10 behind on that middle sector.
I wonder what he's saying. Wow, fastest middle sector of all again from SMP. This time Igor Oruchev in the 17 car. Now that didn't translate to being quicker than the Toyotas over the entire lap.
It's not a good bus stop. He went in a bit too deep on the wrong side, had to take a little bit too long to get back on the throttle and exit. Still the fastest end sector, but that certainly wasn't from the chicane itself. It was from, I would have said, through the run up to there. And so that cemented Toyota number 7 with Mike Conway at the wheel in pole position, and now 5/10 quicker than their teammate Sebastian Buemi.
Oruchev, though, closes to under a second off the Toyota now.
Despite the spots of rain, Conway has gone 25 thousandths of a second slower than the outright qualifying record here on one lap in LMP1. So that's not too shoddy.
Mark of the progress here, by the way, 154.303 from Oruchev as he Tokyo drifts it through the bus stop. That's 4 seconds quicker than their qualifying time in this same season last year. Wow. With what was then a brand new car.
Shows how much they've learned about setting up that BR1, hasn't it? 26, the G-Drive car, wild card, if you like, Jean-Eric Verne. Passing no comment there. Jean-Eric Verne, the reigning Formula E champion. Let's see what he's got going.
I should say, by the way, that lap from Oruchev was a 1/10 and a half off Buemi's first effort.
Wow. That's a lot of commitment from the young Russian. Vitaly Petrov, 4th for SMP Racing. Yet to see the final shout from Rebellion. Now, is this going to be good enough to unsettle Jackie Chan DC Racing at the top of the LMP2 pile? Roman Rusinov on the right-hand side watching the action as Jean-Eric Verne goes to the top of the table, ahead of Jackie Chan's 38 and then 37 cars. Stefan Richelme doing the second stint in 38. 37, David Heinemeier Hansen, the gentleman driver there. A little choppy under braking. It's just a little offline, Jean-Eric.
They run their car so vertically stiff that it bounces on the tyre more than it does on the dampers in the spring. And into that bus stop chicane that it is very bumpy anyway. And so it's quite often you see cars dancing, but that was certainly dancing.
Graham Goodwin, you ought to probably mention that at the moment in LMP2, top 3 are Dunlop shod, 4th and 5th would be the best of the Michelin cars, the Senior Tech and Racing Team Netherlands machines.
Just taking a quick look as one of the Rebellions came by there, I don't think they're now running at the Mans kit in this qualifying session. I think that's the high downforce kit, and confirmed by somebody watching trackside.
Thomas Laurent goes 5th, number 1 car with Andre Lotterer up. Is currently languishing in 6th position in the class, but 12th overall. Bruno Senna, beg your pardon, Mike Conway pops the door. So Senna handing the number 1 car over to Lotterer late, but still 11 minutes. Get back in, son, we're not all finished.
Yeah, a little bit premature there, maybe. But I think in reality, no one's going to pit pole position from Toyota. It just depends whether the sister car goes out again and has another look at it with 10 minutes to go.
Unusual look on the 38 car, again with that all-black nose. It looks like it's had a replacement piece of bodywork fitted that doesn't have the standard livery on.
It's a new commercial partnership for Jackie Chan DC Racing, or particularly the Jota Racing parent behind that with Richard Mille. And I think you can expect a different look again for Le Mans, but it's going to be based on that colour scheme.
So have they done a Richard Mille deal there?
Oh dear. But it wasn't a bargain bucket.
I bet it wasn't. Jackie Chan DC Racing 38 car keeps it clean, and Stefan Richalmi looking to try and overhaul Jean-Eric Verne. Well, Verne is back in the pit lane. 10 minutes to go, could still go out again. It'll be 2 minute 40 or 30 out lap. So there's still a lot of time that they could go in 6 minutes and still be in with a shot of another fast lap.
Roberto Gonzalez crossing the line in the Dragon Speed car, pops himself up into 4th place now.
That's good.
It's at 1.1 seconds off his teammate, Pastor Maldonado. Pretty good performance, actually.
Here's the 38 car, Stefan Richalmi. Better first sector than he's done before. Not as good as second sector, so he bailed out. And we're going to go for the second phase of qualifying, aren't we? I think everybody is sitting in the pit lane waiting to see whether it rains or not, and maybe going out for one final shot.
Wouldn't be remotely surprised. I think by the look of it, he thinks he's done enough. Joop van Ita is not getting back in that car, is he?
Yeah. Well, Jean-Eric Verne, it was a good lap. 2 minutes 1.3 from Van Ita, 2 minutes 0.003 from Jean-Eric Verne.
Early days for the re-engined by Collis, with the Gibson engine now aboard the car.
Well, is it too early for celebrating? Toyota have allowed Mike Conway to get out to have a leak.
But getting back in is going to be Gabriel Aubry in the 38 Jackie Chan DC Racing, currently second. 0.5 of a second behind Jean-Eric Verne, who we saw celebrating what they thought was pole position, but with 8 minutes to go, still maybe a little bit more fight left in the LMP2 battle yet.
It stays dry, it's doable, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's the big if, but Tom Dillman brings the number 4 by Colles Racing entry to the line. And let's see where this leaves him. So it's 1.28. Does he keep the lap? No. Yes. Still on the white line. That'll do.
New chassis for that team for Le Mans, by the way. Rather more optimised for their new power plant.
There's Jev and Roman Rusinov, as fluent in French as he is in English, Russian, and who knows how many other languages. Jean-Eric Verne, Stefan Richalmi, David Heinemeier Hansen are the top 3 at the moment, all in the pit lane. But who will venture back out again, and will they sacrifice tyres? Roberto Gonzalez, not quite sure why the Dragon Speed car stayed out. First sector was not as good as he's done before. Second sector was not as good as he'd done before. So why would you bother doing another lap on those tyres?
Because it's going to be wet tomorrow and you might not need them.
It might not be wet tomorrow and you might need them. Never forecast the weather at Spa and base your entire strategy on it.
Nobody putting in ultimately quickest times for the cars at the moment, but and very few cars still left out there. The one Rebellion still out there for the moment, 31 Dragon Speed, the Bicollis as we've seen, and the 50 Labre Competition Ligier, that was a car that suffered, I think, at least 2 laps stricken from the record books for waywardness.
Yes, they've actually got any laps in for their drivers. Here is Andre Lotre again, continues round after 3 poorer sectors than he had previously, or than the car, I don't know, than he's previously produced in the car. So again, you wonder why they came in.
Labre Competizione, one of the few cars out there, as you said, down through Blanchemont.
Boulay seems to be struggling here, very slow in the middle sector with that car.
Yeah, but 4 seconds, I think there's a bit of an issue there, isn't there?
I thought so. You see a replacement rear deck after a trouble for the Bicollis as it crosses the line.
Yep, as it tries to cross the line. Crawling there, Tom Dillman. Nick Boole. Oh, big lock up into the first corner. Still a few spots of rain.
Lots of spots of rain, you can see it there.
There we go. That's it, all done.
Yeah, Pascal Vasselon doing the most technical way of finding out if you're in, sticking your hand out.
Stick your hand out.
Correct. And at
Nothing
the
to
same time,
gain and everything to lose if you try and go back out again now. So Tom Dillman comes to a grinding halt. Now, it has been a fairly quick installation on the car. Not everything was exactly as the Gibson engineering people would have hoped for, and not least because the electronics on the Bicolis chassis are not the same as the electronics that the Gibson team used, not the Cosworth electronics, and so trying to get the buses to speak to each other.
Red flag.
Yeah.
And my guess is that will be the end of the session. Clock has stopped, though.
Well, Jean Van and Joop van Uytert, premature celebration, but they celebrate nonetheless, with Roman Rusinov on the left-hand side. They are our LMP2 pole sitters.
And it is tipping it down now. Absolutely tipping it down.
Well, we saw that the big cloud was coming our way, didn't we? And the progress of the previous one that threatened the circuit, it wasn't coming up towards us. It was going straight across the screen from west to east. Red flags are out. Race director has brought the session to its conclusion. Will not be started again. No need to restart it.
Doesn't say that quite yet. It has stopped the clock yet, but I think you're absolutely right.
He has stopped the clock.
He stopped the clock, but he's not said it's over.
No. There is time to go out and do one more lap. So Sebastian Buemi could really pee on somebody's chips from here, couldn't he?
But not with the rain coming down as it is at the moment.
I think he'd have to do half a lap to be able to do the lap time.
Yep.
Still a
very
one car,
likely.
Still a one car still on track. Nick Boulay is still out there in the Labour car.
Yeah.
Clearly is not going to improve. Did improve actually marginally last time, but is nailed to the bottom of timing and scoring.
I think he's having a fairly leisurely trip back in, actually. First sector was a couple of seconds slower than he's previously produced. Red flag is out, so he can't complete a competitive lap anyway. Let's head back to the pit lane.
Done.
And as ever, not a day I wish I was a cameraman.
Absolutely.
There is never a day, except when I'm at home unemployed, when I wish I was a cameraman.
Absolutely. There's just donning his superhero cape there.
Yeah, trying to, in the wind and the rain.
Now known as his alter ego, Very Wet Man.
Yeah.
As always, enthusiastic crowd at Spa-Francorchamps.
And as so often, many of them not just from Belgium, but from the Netherlands as well. A couple of Racing Team Netherlands caps there as well. I should think there's some... That's a Valkenburg on the left-hand side there, one of the Dutch TV station commentators, also family born and bred in racing. It is very wet out on track as Nick Bull comes home. But let's hear from Kamui Kobayashi from the pole-sitting number 7 Toyota team.
Well, the session may not be officially over, but you've got the pole, that's for sure.
Well, we never know. But obviously, I think performance was good. I think we did the best job out of it. Yeah, it's not start raining, so maybe, yeah. I think that me and Mike did a great job, and also I think the Car 7 crew did a great job. I think cars really performed well. I was pretty happy in the lap, so I think, yeah, for the moment, I think we are pretty happy.
And conditions for you out there, obviously we're in Spa, it's always changing, but for you, setting that lap, how are the conditions for you?
Just last corner was start raining, so I tried to went like a little bit carefully. But obviously, I think most of the lap was clear. We knew that it's gonna raining during the quali, so we tried to as much as early as possible. So even lap, you know, we want to wait actually in the beginning, but we decided to go earlier because of the weather. I think the decision was right, and we managed both car on dry to do the good lap. So I think the decision was great. So I think all are happy.
Now the important question is, what about the weather tomorrow? It's so unpredictable. We're hearing about snow and all sorts overnight. What are you saying with it in the team?
Yeah, I think I expect snow. You know, I think for the moment, all the weather forecast up until today, it's quite predicted. So it's just when they say, okay, it's gonna rain like 4 o'clock, always raining from yesterday. So it's like, I think, quite we can believe the weather forecast. So they always mention, since from last week, it's gonna snow tomorrow. So let's see if snowing or not.
We know you're fast in the car, but how about in a toboggan?
What? What?
It doesn't matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, steady, Louise Beckett. Stop standing on my bobsled toes there. Yeah. I'm the downhill in the snow,
Absolutely.
man. Yeah,
that was vocabulary too far, I think, for Kamui.
A toboggan. Well, yeah, fuel flow meters notwithstanding, it does look as though the number 7 Toyota will start on pole position for tomorrow's Spa 6 hours. In the end, not quite as frantic and all chopping and changing as the GTE AM and Pro session, but highly entertaining qualifying nonetheless for our LMP1 and LMP2 cars. Bad luck stories, well, apart from the Bicolis car stopping at the end of the session, who else do we think probably should have produced more? TDS Racing probably should have produced more. 7th out of 8 cars in LMP2.
But that was principally because at the start of the session, Francois Peroda, I think, lost at least 1, possibly 2 laps to track limits. If you look at the gap, was a 2:08.184 to a 2:01.751 for Mathieu Vazevier. That all happened. The bad luck happened early for TDS.
Yeah, one car that I think could maybe have pulled a little bit more out of it, looking at it, a bit surprised he's propping up the LMP1 grid, is actually Andre Lotter in the second Rebellion. Thomas Laurent, the very quick, I must say, but certainly lesser experienced driver, has given Andre basically 4 tenths.
Yeah, the number 1 Rebellion never quite looked like it was anywhere close, and I wonder whether they are using different aero packages on the 2 cars.
I wondered whether or not that might be the case. We can look at the number 3 car here. That is the higher downforce package, without a shadow of a doubt. It's certainly not what was being tested at Aragon, what, 10 days ago.
How can you tell? Is that the Fokker Tridecker front end there?
It has 2 big differences that you can see from the front. Number 1 is much squarer, larger light pods, and the other the marker lights at the side, not underneath the first of the light panels.
Oh, a bit of dancing around there. Jackie Chan DC racing car over the top of the hill.
Session is to be resumed, it says, on a short call. Not called it yet.
Session will be resumed for the remaining time in a very short call. Session will be resumed for the remaining time in a very short call.
So, if we weren't red flagged for very light rain, why were we red flagged?
Because there's a car stopped on the start and finish straight.
Okay,
this car, in fact, was going slower than slow-mo.
Slower than this, indeed. There it is. So, on the way back to the breakdown garage at Verviers. Well, at the moment, G-Drive have pole position, and Louise Beckett is down with the team to hear from Jean-Éric Vergne.
Another dominant performance from G-Drive, and of course, Jev, congratulations on that run. It was a great one from you.
Thank you. I felt that, I think it was probably one of the best laps I ever done in my life. I've put it out, out there on track, and felt fantastic. The car felt great, and I don't think I could have gone much quicker, so I'm very pleased with the pole position. And obviously, the race is tomorrow. We're going to have to be good tomorrow, but for today, I think we maximized everything, and I'm very pleased.
Everybody's talking about the weather. What do you say?
I brought some skis tomorrow in case we cannot drive, so at least I do something. But I think it's going to be very difficult conditions, so it's going to need to be a survival race where no mistake will be allowed. And if we do a good job, no mistake, I think we should be in a good position.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Green flag on track, Graham Goodwin, so the session has restarted.
Should say, by the way, both the LMP1 and LMP2 qualifying records have gone in that session. Under 154 on average for the number 7 Toyota, and it was a 2:02. Unsurprised for me, I think we're going to see the Lava and possibly the TDS racing cars go back out. But 2:02 was the previous qualifying lap record in LMP2. It's 2 minutes .674, the combination time between Jean-Éric Vergne and Hundredths. So both those qualifying records gone. Just trying to check, see where we were with GT times. Results on the screen.
Still a few spots of rain, Alan. What is he going to learn, apart from the fact that he's never driven at Spa in the rain, because he made his World Endurance debut at Le Mans last year, Nick Poole?
What he's going to learn is that it's quite slippery at Lake Como, and you can't quite brake as late as he did. And he was sharp enough to come off the brakes and go down the escape route, but I would presume that this is going to be a gentle lap back to the pits now.
Yeah. If you don't pay attention to the first warning, you may not get a second one. Doesn't look like anybody else is prepared to go, or is preparing to go, let's say.
Yeah, that's no way.
Again, this is almost like free practice at Le Mans, where it rained and Fernando Alonso was almost the only car out for about 30 minutes. And he learned an awful lot that he didn't know about wet weather tyres, intermediate tyres, the weather on the straight at Le Mans and so on. So,
yeah, but he was on a wet tyre on a wet circuit. This is a slick tyre on a pretty damp and slippery circuit at the end of qualifying here. So I would have said with the time availability and also their position is holding up the bottom of the LMP1 and LMP2 grid, and there's very, very little to gain in this one.
Except that he might end up in these conditions in the race, and so now at least he's got some idea in his mind about how tricky it is.
Some idea how to get back to the pits and put on the correct tyres.
Yes. How to survive and how slow you have to go.
The problem is, the slower you go, the less energy you put in the tyre, the less temperature goes into the tyre, the less tyre that works, the less grip you've got, the more you tend to want to lift off the throttle and not load the tyre, which then is just it's a downward spiral from there. The hardest thing you've got to do in these conditions is actually try to go as quick as you can. And to put load in the tyre, if you go on the err on the side of caution, it actually is much, much worse, but your risk is very, very high.
And then the brakes cool down and they get very grabby, the tyre's cold and it doesn't have the grip, and it's, yeah, all spirals inevitably towards the line of least resistance, which is the grass and then the barriers. So the lab competition car, Nick Bull, I'm sure will head back into the pits now. And V very relieved to make it back after giving himself a little bit of a shake of the car.
To confirm, it is all 4 class qualifying records have gone in those sessions, albeit the Ford time beating their own record by just a tenth and a bit, I believe. But Charlie Eastwood's efforts and then Sally Yolok's final lap taking well over half a second off the record for GTM as well. So all 4 WEC qualifying lap records here have gone this afternoon.
That's impressive considering it wasn't warm, dry and sunny. So 42 seconds remaining, no cars out on track. I think we can now pretty much confirm the positions as we saw them. But as ever, the race director making sure that everything runs to the rules. Because if you just say, can't be bothered, and somebody else has got a plan to go out and could get that point to win the title, then you're leaving yourself open to all sorts of problems. Like Conway, Jose Maria Lopez feeling no pain there, are they? And for Fernando Alonso in the background, teammates Sebastian Buemi and Kazuki Nakajima, they'll end up second on the grid. Conway, Kobayashi and Lopez will be the car that starts from pole.
It's a 6th different LMP2 pole sitter, albeit with a guest entry. Yes, it is this year.
In 7 races.
In 7 races. Only the Jackie Chan DC racing car, the
38s
Open Tongue. In fact, that came in the last 2 races.
Yeah.
In the GTE Pro.
Well, let's take a look at the LMP1 and LMP2 classes. Toyota 7 ahead of Toyota 8. SMP Rebellion, and then G-Drive, the cuckoos in the nest, grabbing 7th place overall and pole position LMP2 ahead of the Jackie Chan DC racing cars. Will G-Drive take the point, or does that go to 38? That'll go to 38.
If they award, yes, it does, because they ignore it, yes.
Dragon Speed, Senior Tech, Racing Team Netherlands, TDS and Labra line up in that way. In the GT Pro class, Ford 67 squad get the bonus point for pole position as they start on their class pole, and the crew of the 90 TF Sport Aston Martin claiming pole position in the AM class, they will get that extra point.
Which means it's a 5th pole setting team in that class as well.
Wow.
And a 2nd pole for the 67 Ford this season, matching the record in qualifying of the sister car.
I'm liking that variety. And that sets us up nicely for the 6 hours of Spa, the penultimate race of the FIA World Endurance Championship, which comes up on Saturday afternoon here at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. The cars will be leaving the pits at 12:30 local time, and we should get the racing underway at just before 1:30. So that is 11:30 Greenwich Mean Time. We'll see you then. Bye for now.